Hello and welcome to this episode of ET Now Hangouts. I'm Ankita Saxena and today we are talking about the rapidly growing India's D2C beauty market that is pegged at 20,000 crore rupees, growing at a rapid clip of 27% annually. Now, India's beauty brand Foxtale, which was founded by Romita Mazumdar in 2021, is growing rapidly and is very close to touching the 1,000 crore mark. And I have with me Romita today. In fact, we are at her office today speaking to her about her brand and much more. Hi Romita, thank you so much for taking the time out and joining us on ET Now Hangouts.
Thank you, Ankita. Very excited to be here today.
So Romita, take us through the start of your journey. You have been on the other side of the cap table. You've been a banker, you've been a VC, you've been investing in startups. So coming to this, the other side of the table, was that a natural progression?
Today I look back and say it was a quarter-life crisis, but at that time probably yes. You know, I was an investment banker focused on tech. A lot of my time went into consumer tech companies, which included FANGs in the US and back in India, and companies like Rebel Foods, Practo, etc. Looked at them quite closely at the time I was with POFA, and then moved to a VC fund which looked quite deeply into consumer as a sector, and that's when I got an exposure to a lot of Series A, B, C consumer companies in beverages, in beauty, in electronics. Attenberg was one of the companies that I was part of the deal that my previous fund did. So looked at a few companies very closely in that, and then happened to start my own consumer brand, figuring out a space and how to build a sizable outcome there. So yeah, probably a very natural progression, but looking back, there's never a linear path to entrepreneurship. Yeah.
Absolutely. In fact, when he started out in 2021 is when he started out with the brand. So what was the market gap that you saw? What is the market problem that you're trying to solve with Foxtale? Because I'm sure while you had a lot of exposure to different kind of startups, you started with tech and then consumer brands. How did you zero in on skincare brand, and what's the market gap that you saw there?
Yeah, so I used to look at beauty as a sector quite closely during my time at the VC. And I remember speaking to some 108 skincare brands in a period of 2 years that I was there. And every time I would meet a brand and I would come back saying they are growing so fast and they are doing so well, but none of them were making money, right? So, and when you look deeper, it looked like they were constantly launching new products. So they would launch a onion, the next year they would launch aloe vera, the third year they would launch niacinamide. Yeah. So it looked like a place where people were growing just by launching new categories and new SKUs in the same category, versus FMCG players like a Fair & Lovely, Himalaya. They all had grown on the back of hero product, right? The Himalaya neem face wash, we've used it when we were 10-15 years old. It's still there, it's still growing well and doing well. Similarly, Fair & Lovely, it's changed. The name's changed, but the product has fairly remained the same and the TG has been the same, right? Yeah. So there was a very clear understanding that I developed that skincare is a beautiful market growing fast, but the only way to create a profitable P&L is if you are able to create hero products that have high retention. And this is the time when I started going and meeting a lot of consumers. I remember meeting some 937, exactly that number at the time. And the biggest feedback which resonated so deeply with me as a consumer was, in skincare, we chase efficacy. We know our problem statements. We know whether it's pigmentation, oily, acne-prone skin, dullness. And when we pick a product, we truly believe and truly wanted to solve that. But that was a big gap. So people were moving to trends because they were not satisfied with what they had and what the current products were delivering. And hence, there was a consumer gap that solved for the problem statement of high retention. So I knew if I create products that really work, I can create consumer love. And eventually, that's what builds hero products in the long run. Yeah.
So what's your hero product?
Luckily for us, Ankita, and I always say this with a lot of pride, that D2C brands have either become a serum first brand or a sunscreen first brand. We are a skincare first brand, and hence our hero products are 5, which varies across. One in sunscreen, we have one glow sunscreen that are, and all of these are either amongst the top 3 or top 5 in the country in the digital space. So we have our glow sunscreen. In we have 2, our vitamin C serum as well as our niacinamide serum. We hold the top 3 rank across them. skin radiance mask, our clay mask, we hold like a 30% market share on that. So it's a massively, we drive the category, we've created the category there. Our moisturizer, nourishing moisturizer, from the time we launched, I think it took us 3 months to get to a top 7 there. And our Super Glow face wash. So we have one in each category, which truly solves for us being a skincare brand and not just a category first brand. Yeah, but these would be.
You mentioned a very interesting point that, you know, in India, especially Indian women, they are quite aware of what the skin issues are. Whether it is just basic dryness or hyperpigmentation or pigmentation, they know what the problem is. So what was your product thesis? You said you met some more than 900 women and you spoke to them. So what was the thesis that you developed after speaking to these women?
So the thesis was driven by 3 fundamental things. One was that when we talk about efficacy, the measurement of efficacy is very instantaneous. In fact, at that time, I realized majority of Amazon reviews on skincare come in 3 to 5 days of delivery of the product. So within 3 to 5 uses, we say whether it's a 5-star product or 1-star. I say it so many times, but it's like my line that I tell my team and I tell a lot of people, India is a 2-minute noodle market. Skincare is not very different, right? I want instantaneous results. So that was number one. The second was that a lot of our problem statements are related to pigmentation and dehydration, which manifests in very different ways. It manifests in accelerated aging. It manifests in pigmentation, hyperpigmentation as a problem statement, uneven skin tone, massive dullness on skin, etc. And largely that's driven by photo damage. Indian skin is very exposed to the sun, and photo damage, whether we realize it or not, is the cause of a lot of issues in our skin. And dehydration. Not a country, despite our climate, we don't drink a lot of water. In fact, water consumption in India is generally very low. And even if you and I will talk, we'll probably figure we don't have enough water. So I knew that anything I do has to solve for that. So in fact, that's something across our product, whether you buy our serums, whether you buy our moisturizers or face wash, we very actively, and whether for whatever reason you buy for, we do solve for photo damage and hydration as a very key aspect, because I know that's how long term I can give you healthy skin. And third was glow. Now, glow is something that I hold very deeply because, you know, like I'm not a big makeup user. Like I hardly use it. So you see me right now, I'll have to get someone to help me out with the makeup. But my morning routine is my dewy sunscreen from Foxtale and a bit of a lip tint, and that's it. So I think skincare products need to give you that glow up, right? Make you feel like you can walk outside your house without doing it. And I think that's another key takeaway that we got from users. And we solve for all of these 3 things, no matter what stream and subcategory we deal with. But I think I feel very nice when people say, no matter what Foxtale product I use, I get the glow. So the acne skin user also says this, the dry skin user also says this, and that is something that we very actively solve for during formulations.
You mentioned a very interesting point. You said that India is a 2-minute Maggie market where people want results very quick, and especially with the advent of quick commerce, it's become a very subconscious thing that why are the results not getting delivered, and that has actually changed consumer expectations. You know, the consumer that we had, like I think before COVID, to the consumer expectations that have changed to now, there's been a vast difference, because you started out at the time when we were coming out of the pandemic. 2021 is when you started out. So tell me, what has changed since then to now as in terms of consumers and your market?
So I feel, Ankita, instantaneous results and has been relevant for our country throughout. Like Maggie came when we were growing up, and that continues to be the case today. So we are a country. We lead a very multifaceted life. We are all like going between work and family, and within family, extended families, etc. So I think as a culture, we are very quick. Humko har cheez jaldi chahiye. That's the culture that we are born into, and I think that's how we are. So I would say that even when we started, the instantaneous results was a strong expectation the consumer has, continues to be. But one way the consumer has changed, and I've seen this constantly evolving, is the level of education the consumer has. With Instagram, with quick commerce, with information being democratic. distribution being democratic, right? Brands are like penetrating across the country in a way that has never happened before, right? So now the consumer is very empowered with information. What education does, what information does is empowers you. It builds a strong sense of opinion. It builds a strong sense of what they really want and not. So now we're not talking to a consumer who's just coming to the market and saying, give me a brightening product or give me a a pigmentation product or anti-acne. She's very clear that I want a brightening product that gives me brightening in X days, or I want something that is specific for a sensitive skin and that can also solve for XYZ other results. So we are increasingly talking to a more evolved consumer. And there was a time where brand used to lead education of consumers. I definitely can tell you today consumers educate brands on what to do. So we are the ones playing catch up with the consumers. And that's a very interesting space to be, because truly the consumer has owned the king and the queen, and it's beautiful to build for her and to solve for her.
And aren't D2C brands at an advantage in that sense? All the pointers that you just mentioned, are at an advantage as compared to the incumbent brands who have been here for ages, like say a Fair and Lovely and so on. New age brand, D2C brands are directly talking to the consumers. You're directly getting a feedback. So what was the time when you realized that you have achieved your product market fit?
So for us, when we launched the brand, we launched the brand in 2022 January. So we were for 18 months in R&D. Once the products were ready, we tested it on some 4,000 consumers. That's when we were ready to launch our first 4 products. And it was so Jan 2022, we did 5 lakhs. And around June 2022, I hit the 1.5 crore mark. And around December, I hit the 3 crore mark. All of this at that time was 90% our own website, and our repeat rate, Ankita, was our biggest PMF. We had 50% repeat on our this, and even today our website is 50% repeat users. So I always say when we launch a new product or a new category, our biggest PMF is, can a product have organic demand? Because when we started, we didn't have money to put into marketing. Even today, when we launch a product, it's a different team. It's a 0 to 1 team in the organization which gets no budget. So their only truth and power is what is there in the product. And the second is the repeat they get on it. So the first 3 months we see is the product able to get love from consumers once they try it. And third is the calls and NPS calls that we do. So our PMF is a 3-month period which measures all of these 3 metrics, and basis that we then decide to put more money. So when we launch a product, till today we only put 5 lakhs in it, nothing more. But at the end of the day, the product has to speak louder than the budgets, because you will put budgets eventually, but there has to be product love without the noise of marketing, and that's something that...
Yeah, in fact, I speak to so many startup founders, and they tell me that, a product love is when you can sell same product to the same customer and not sell that product to 100 other customers.
Yeah.
It's the repeat purchases that tells you how loved your product is.
Yeah.
What is your moat for Foxtale? Because, around that same time, I know for a fact that a lot of D2C skincare brands that made their way, homegrown Indian brands that made their way into the Indian market. What is your USP? What is your moat?
Ankita, if you'd met me 3-4 years back, I think I would have told you like a lot of jargon. Today I'll tell you my moat is the consumer love that we get, and that is based on the foundation of the fact that the products work. The only moat for a consumer brand is product, and if your products are delivering on the promise they have made, then that's a moat, because no one can disrupt that. People can come and claim the same marketing, claim the same packaging, claim the same color. What they can't hopefully break very easily, because it's very difficult to achieve it. Even today, there are products that takes us 3 years. There are products today, we just launched a serum, a collagen serum, that took us 3 years to make and get right. So that time and investment that we put into product development is only to do one thing, is to ensure that the product works and the product is loved by the consumer. And that's really the moat of Foxtale. Even at the scale that we are today, 50% of our revenue is an own website. Every time we've raised money, we've had investors said, why is your they can't make sense of why our website is so big, because we are available everywhere else. We are growing very fast. We were one of the fastest growing brands across Myntra, Nykaa, Amazon, if not the fastest, right? So we really well in marketplaces, yet have such a big website that's growing fast. And every time they come back to me, they do consumer calls as investors, so they're like, they just love you. And I think the real moat happens there is when you make a place in a consumer's emotional mind space. And that comes from product tech, dermal delivery of the ingredients that you've done, that comes from rigorous testing. So there are so many other pieces to it. But I think the easiest way to understand the moat is to tell you that consumer love. Foxtale has been built by consumers, very concentrated awareness set, but those who know love us. And I think that's what has built the company so far.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about numbers and profitability then.
Yeah.
Talk to us about your profitability, your path to profitability. And I mean, eventually, I won't say that everyone is eyeing the same goal, but you know, sooner than later, companies do tend to IPO or go public. Is that on the cards anytime soon? 5 years down the line, say.
I'll answer the first question. We are roughly run rating at a gross revenue scale of close to 700 crores. We are, last year we did a net revenue of 200 crores. We will 2x that, both at a net revenue level and a gross revenue level this year. We are run rating much ahead of that, both in terms of our AOP. We've just started hitting certain months of profitability. As a business owner, now I can tell you that a month of profitability and a year of profitability is different. So I keep telling my team that let's not rejoice till we have it full fiscal year, but we expect it to happen in the coming fiscal year. Even this year we will be EBITDA negative but single digit, and we are trying to minimize it to the extent that we can. And I feel like we will land in a very good place this year and enter the next fiscal year with the intent to be profitable for the full fiscal year. In terms of IPO or anything else, I don't know. I'm a young founder, so I think I'm figuring out my
goals, eventual goals.
I think my goal is very clear. I want to make one of the biggest global BPC companies that has existed. And to me, everything else is a means to an end. IPO to me is a means. All of these are sources of capital to the business. Of course, IPO also means that you're creating a more sustainable, because governance is a lot more tighter. You're building something that can institutionalize a lot faster. So I will know when the time is right and what is right for the company. I have shareholders on my cap table. I have to make sure that I give them financial returns, not just on paper, but in liquidity. So I always say this, and I will say the same thing. I have to solve for consumers, employees, and shareholders in exactly this order. I solve for consumers by doing right by the products every day with every single product. With every single production batch. I think when you do that right, you solve for employees to a large extent, but you have to put in effort, because employees are humans, they are here working hard. But if you solve for the above two, shareholders get solved for, because value creation hota hai. And then everything is a means to end. Value creation ka liquidity can come from public markets, can come from private markets. Destiny plays a role, so we will see when the right time, what is right and when it is right. Yeah.
We have already launched a new brand here. It's called Hula Hoop. So is it a separate brand with a separate entity, or is it a part of the same product vertical as Foxtale, as a separate product portfolio?
It's a separate brand. Altogether, it will be housed under the same parent entity, but the P&L and the functioning of it will run completely different. And there's a very specific reason to it. See, body care is the 95% of your skin, right?
And yet we don't pay attention to that.
And yet we don't pay attention to that, right? And it has very specific problem statement. It's not like you can use your face care products as easily, because your body's skin is not exposed to pollution as much or sun, but it sweats a lot. In fact, you cover it so much, it gets dehydrated. The skin on your body is more dehydrated than your face. You're not putting enough water on it. We don't hydrate it enough, etc. So for us, over the last 2.5 years back, we started solving for body care. Now, the skin on on the body, and honestly, that has been a very fulfilling journey, because what we learned is the active delivery of the dermal delivery of actives that we'd cracked for the face skin is what really works. So there was a lot of leverage in the science and the R&D that we'd already done.
Yeah.
But there was a lot more complexity, right? For example, for me, what was critical that, in Indian weather, there is a lot of odor, right? You sweat. And one of the first things is that we don't just want fragrance for the sake of fragrance. We wanted fragrance that can last, but we wanted fragrance that can kill odor, the bacteria causing odor. And we did that. And we tested it and we got beautiful results, right? So our fragrance stands for efficacy, not just smell. But at the same time, for me, taking a bath is a moment of self-care for women and men alike, and hence you cannot take the joy away from it. It's the 2 minute you get to reset, the 5 minute you get to reset yourself. So there's a dopamine that I wanted in the science to it. So we said, we want to be high science, but we also want to be very high spirits, and make the user feel that. And hence we knew that the brand had to stand for its own world, and that's how Hula Hoop came about. So the science is similar. The science is where it's common.
Where you have active ingredients and
active ingredients, a lot of focus on delivery, a lot of focus on, problem statements like strawberry skin,
body
KP,
odor,
back acne, body odor, etc. Hydration. Hydration is a key thing that each of the body care products have, whether you buy an exfoliating range or a nourishing range. Yeah.
Right, interesting. So are you planning to have more brand launches under the same house? Are there more product launches on the annual?
There is one more category, a much bigger category that you will see us entering in the next 6 months. I'll talk more about it then. But yeah, that is all the part.
And this is under Foxtale?
No, that will be a separate brand.
Okay.
Yeah. So we truly have transitioned from being a skincare brand to a house of brands. Yeah.
That's interesting.
It's all happening very fast, but we've been working towards it for the last 3 years. It's now going to come to the consumer in a very short span of time.
Finally, talk to us about your marketing strategy and your product strategy. Because as a D2C brand, you have a direct access to consumers, right? So how does that help you shape your marketing strategies?
Honestly, it impacts a lot. Every marketing comms is driven what the consumer wants, today we don't have to, we are not the kind of team that is sitting once a year to decide this is what we have to say, or we don't have a comms director. Every P&L guy is a comms director, right? Because they are the ones talking to the consumer, understanding, telling what leads to conversion, telling what leads to a drop-off.
Yeah.
And at the same time, marketing has a role in conversion. Marketing also has a role in building brand perception. And that's something that we take very seriously, because today we have reached a space where earlier we used to convert and make user aware at the same time. Today, the awareness happens prior to the conversion as a natural cycle of the brand, and hence how you know us matters. So it dictates a lot. We are very heavy on data analytics. There's a lot of work that goes into user sentiment understanding. There are social telling tools which are updated twice a day in the system. So consumers really are the center of what we do, and we try to do our best to integrate that, and it helps us a lot. Yeah.
Absolutely, Romita. Finally, before we let you go, we are a show for the young startup founders. You're a young startup founder. So what would be your advice to startup founders? What should be in the playbook for someone who's just getting started?
I think with every sector, it would be different a little. But I always say this, and I've used this word a lot, so I don't, at the cost of sounding redundant, the only thing that matters is understanding your user. If you're a software company, your users might be enterprises. If you're a consumer company, your users are individuals and people. I think nothing beats understanding the user. And if your user dictates everything on your product, whether it's a tech product or a physical product, the way you sell, the way you talk, and I think that's one thing I keep telling every young founder, that apne user ko samjho. There is nothing like understanding your user, and if you build a company for your user, you will see success. Yeah.
Right. On that note, Romita, thank you so much for having us in your office, and all the very best to you.
Thank you so much. Very nice speaking with you, Ankita. Thank you.